There we go. Making sure, yep, that all my levels are jumping, so I'm actually talking out loud this time rather than last time. Let's take a look at all the package files to see our functioning characters. So what I should really do here is delete out the player entirely, like that, before I do this, so that I can just drag the package or the prefab that you guys have right into the scene to see how that functions. So we'll see. So I'll start with Devin. And so we've got animations, import, prefab. So player, Devin, Anderson. Okay. So let's try that. Prefabs. Player. I've got a bunch of players in here from last week, which I'm thinking I need to delete out just so I don't get confused. That one should be the correct one. Just really quick, let me go do that. So just all the old ones that didn't have logic yet. That was my example, but I'll get rid of it too. Okay, so now we just got my original and the one that I just dragged in. So let's pop this into the scene, and then hopefully hit play and see it go. Yeah, looks like it. So here we've got walking and running, jumping. All right, here we go. Whee! Very good. Works out really nicely. We can also, if we click right here, go into the animator to see the motion trees. So we've got this blend tree, which you can kind of see previewing down there. It just always looks really weird. And our jump tree. Excellent. All right, and a landed pose as well, which would be hard to preview, but I could just hit play again. Very good. I'm glad this worked out. This is kind of a rough start to using the animator in Unity. It's got a hell of a lot more capability and stuff that we're not covering. For instance, you can have different animation layers, one on top of the other. So for instance, in like a game like Doom, you could have a whole set of animations which is just lower body, running, jumping, maybe crouching, whatever, and a whole set of animations which is just upper body, firing the weapon, reloading the weapon, aiming, whatever, and then combine them at runtime. So you never have a full body animation at all. But we're not even getting into that stuff. So very good. Devin, that looks great. Hope it all went well. Thank you. Yang, let's take a look at yours. Animations, import, physical material, prefab. Okay. Should be all set. Let's go ahead and delete. Bring in Germ. See how it plays. I swear his arms are long. Like, I don't remember him being that long, but it makes him look funny. Cool. Seems to work well. Okay. I prefer a slightly more gradual transition from the states. See how he like jumps up and then flips his arm suddenly when he comes down? That's mostly due to the physics, because the forces are reversing right at that moment. Your thresholds are kind of close. I think that if you loosen up the thresholds a little bit, that it transitions more slowly. So for instance, to a higher negative number. Let's just try that real quick as a kind of tweak that we could potentially do. So I'm going to look inside the jump tree. And so your thresholds, okay, you got it -4, 0, and 4. And I think negative is, yeah, just down. So if I set the negative threshold higher, so like -8, then I think it will more slowly transition. It would be really hard to preview it down here, but you can kind of see the hands, how long they're taking to go from here, which is 0, to here, -8. So now if we play, I think it'll flip those hands slower. There we go. After the apex, see, it just transitions a lot more lazily. I kind of prefer something like that oftentimes. That kind of makes sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it does.
Yeah, so this is like an extra responsibility for animators, like not just the action itself, but also how they interplay. So this is an example of how you can tune that stuff by changing those threshold numbers. I think at runtime right now I could be changing them. I'm not sure if they'll stay, but we could change like the up value as well, because that's how it's transitioning from the arms down to the midair position. So we could, I don't know, let's make that one 8 as well. So now we've got a really, really soft transition. The good thing about this kind of jump, though, is that we're immediately encountering our highest positive number when we hit the space bar. It doesn't have to transition from 0 to 8 because that's instant. You can see kind of down here, like it's very, very quick. But all the other transitions are gradual. So now the traveling up to midair is soft too. So sometimes a wider threshold is better, sometimes a tighter threshold is better. Depends on the action. And it may be that while I'm tapping this, like trying to do quick little jumps, this is making it worse. But I don't know. Let's lower it like all the way down to 2. So it's very tight. That actually didn't seem to really affect it. Oh, there it goes. Okay, it does affect it once we start losing speed in midair, but it doesn't affect down here. Okay, so just kind of an example of what we can mess around with after the fact. Did you have any problems or questions, Yang?
Uh, I think it was just for the landing animation that I did. Like, for the actual animation, it looked more like it was landing. But when you do like the gameplay or like when you in game, it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't look as much as that. I think it was just the blending with your animations.
Yeah, it happens. Okay, like that. So,
Yeah, so when you're in game, like he doesn't actually looks like he's landing pad.
right. Okay, so let's watch it. Yeah, it's the blend, I think. So you've got an end time. So your exit time right now, it's saying you want it to start transitioning at a quarter of a second, and then it's got a duration of zero point 0.1 seconds. So it's very, very fast. But I think it's that your animation was too slow to be visible. Like we're not actually going to see all that animation because it's gone by the time we're trying to play it. Uh, where's your landing? So we're saying 0.25 seconds is here. That's the exit time. So it's going to go to there, and then it's going to transition away by here, which kind of seems like it would make sense. So you feel like we should at least see that. I think what happens really is that this first part from there to there is taking up too much time. So what we almost should do is just come to this point. I'm going to go one frame before and add a key on everything. Then I'm going to delete this part and then take your whole animation and slide it back to there. So at the moment this animation starts playing, we're already in the crouched position. And so instead of animating from falling to crouch, we're going to let it transition from falling to crouch. And all that really ends up being is kind of what you animated, is that it will go from the first position to the second, and that's all. So let's see how that plays. So it's really, really quick. But now what we could do is we could tune that in the animator by affecting this transition, which is the one that it's going into, or this transition, the one it's exiting. It's probably this one at that point. We don't have an exit time. That's good. We have 0 duration. So now let's give it a 0.1 duration.
Sorry I'm late.
Hello. It might still be too quick to see. Let's do 0.2 duration. Not really. Not really seeing
No, it
it.
just looks weird.
Yeah, it does look weird now. Don't know. Something somewhere in these settings would be the See, that one actually looks better. At least I see his bent legs when it's instant. So maybe it's this one. So we have our exit time, transition duration. No, that should be fine. So at least I see that pose now, that it's like completely instant. I could have gone softer, and instead of just making it the very first frame, we could have had it be 5 frames or something like that. But I think you had it a little bit too slow is probably why. But I don't know what sort of tweaks we would make to make it perfect. I'd have to play around with it. Does that make sense, though?
Oh yeah, yeah. At least it's crouching right now.
What's that?
Yeah, the landing, he looks like he's crouching, like when he lands.
Yeah.
So that's better.
Yeah, so at least we see the bent legs, but in order to get the nice effect that you want, a lot of times there's a lot of interplay. You got to go back and forth quite a bit. Right.
Okay.
Thank
Thank you.
Miguel, we got yours. Prefabs. There we are. Import. There we go. Homeless cat. Play. Woo! I feel like he just caught his balance when we first started the whole scene. There we go. Okay, so Miguel's got a pretty sizable landing, but now check it out. If we stand still, that looks great. If we move, it looks like he's ice skating or skidding, right? And so we get into these situations where we can make some part of it look great and then it doesn't work with others. And then we've either got to choose to break out the graph into multiple branches with different conditions, or we have to compromise somewhere where one part looks okay so that another part can look okay, whereas one could look great and the other could look bad. It's fun. Yeah, he's working pretty well. Cool. Miguel, you got any comments or anything?
No, I didn't fix the idle, but I fixed the run cycle. So
yeah, I think the only thing for me in the run cycle is it could use a little bit more bobbing up and down from the hips, just because it feels a bit more complete when you have that. It sort of feels like he's sliding to the side. That is, in a way, more physically accurate. When you're walking, you have a lot of up and down bob. When you're jogging, you have a lot of up and down bob. But when you're running, sprinting, you have very little. So if you watch like Olympics or track meets, you'll see those guys appear to be sort of levitating if you just cover their legs. They're kind of just cruising. But for cartoony purposes, we normally give it some up and down bob because it looks better.
Yeah, I've got a slight amount in there. You can kind of see it. But
It's just a bit too subtle. Usually an amount equal to about half a head or an entire head's width is appropriate. So take the top of his head and lower it as far as the middle of his eyes. Or I sometimes think about it from the hips, like take the belt line and lower it all the way down to the end of the butt. That far up or down is usually about right.
yeah, it didn't occur to me to exaggerate it. So I was just looking at how they're mostly like strides.
Yeah. Focusing on the legs. It does create a problem where then you have to match the feet up to the ground. It becomes a lot harder, but it's worth it because the extra motion usually covers that. We don't have to notice any imperfections. Cool. All right. Anything else? I like that landing. It's very fun.
I'm good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Very good. All right. These are turning out pretty nicely. All right, Gunther, you're up. Animations, import, prefabs. Okay, cool. It's it's this one, right? Let's see how it turned out. Okay. Whoa. What'd she do there? I think she lost track of the ground for a second. Oh, look at that. Huh. That could be something to do with my character controller, or it could be to do with the character's position or something. It seems to think it's lost contact with the ground, but I'm going to blame that on the level and not on the character. Whoa, okay. The jump is a bit crazy. Whoa. So what happened here? You still there, Gunther?
It's actually very purposeful.
Yeah?
She's going wild whenever she goes into the air.
Like,
I know what we're doing.
like flapping the arms and stuff?
Yeah, she's just...
Okay. It's a little distracting. I mean, I get it, you know, what you're trying to do there, but it makes me feel like she got electrocuted or something. See the walk. So the walk's pretty sedate by comparison. Again, same comment with Miguel's. Give it a little bit more bob up and down in the body, just because it tends to give us a better kind of look. So there's something going on with her toe also down here. I think that, oh, maybe it's intentional. It just kind of animated
it's
itself.
very intentional. She's her toes are going up and down like she's
like tapping them.
yes.
Okay, just not as long. So if you're gonna tap your toe, like it's actually really uncomfortable to hyperextend your toes for a length of time without an object to press against them. So if you're gonna tap, then it's just a real quick up, down, or tiny, tiny little taps. Don't hold it up. That's all. Because it made me feel like it was broken. All right, let's look at the animator. Okay, so you got to push off, which is happening, and then the jump tree, and then the landing. I'm interested in the tree because I can't tell the difference between one. I don't think the tree is. I don't think the tree is functioning, but I can't think of why it wouldn't be.
Yeah, I need help with that.
Well, it's
I thought it was I don't know why.
well, it's odd because it should be functioning. Oh, I think we got a capitalization problem. Lowercase velocity x, uppercase v on this one. That one needs to be changed. So let me stop playback, and then can I just retype? Yeah, I can just retype it. Lowercase v. Now when we play, it should work. There it goes. Okay. So that was probably a bit frustrating, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. So if you don't see the numbers updating when the animator is on, by the way, to get the animator visible during play, just open the hierarchy and click on the player anim object. Then down here in the animator, you can see things updating live, like grounded. It's a good way to debug in case like something's wrong with the character. If you don't see the numbers changing, then they are not reporting their values. So nothing you do in the animator will change. So now we can see it going back and forth. So I'm going to recommend, like I did with, I think it was Yang's, I actually forget which, to widen the thresholds a bit. Having it so tight.
I was trying to fix it by making it so.
Let's set them to 4. This just means that it will transition more softly. See, it just takes a little bit longer to go from state to state now. And it feels a bit more satisfying now that we can see the leaning on the body like that. There we go. We can also do things like, if I really think that the playback of the flappy, flappy, flappy stuff is too much, what I could do is I could change the time that it plays back in. So I could say, I want you to play at half speed. I don't know what midair looks like, but I'll say those ones. So now see how it's like a little gentle wobble because it's playing half as fast. So that's something you can do in the animator as well. I could also, like, I feel like her walk is a little bit casual compared to how fast she's moving. So I'm going to go in the motion tree. And for your run cycle, I'm going to turn up the speed on the fast version also. Let's make this one 4 and that one 2. So now it's like she's power walking, but I feel like her feet are more in line with how fast she's moving across the stage. That kind of makes sense. These are extra options for fine-tuning.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Do you have any questions or problems beside the variable not reporting?
It looks so much better now.
Fine-tuning. That's all you got to do. With a little bit of know-how with what can be tweaked, you don't even have to do any more animation. You just get the transitions, you just get the play speed. That's all completely normal stuff to do. Cool, man. Thank you. All right. Elias.
No, thank you.
You're welcome. We've got the prefab. So the prefab is in the wrong folder. It's in the import, but I'll go look for it inside Crow. So that's why I read that, to make sure I don't lose track of things. Uh-oh. Maybe I read that wrong. Oh, it's in here. It wasn't inside Crow. It was inside import. All right. Well, what are you doing over there, buddy? Okay. Well, I think that's fine. I'm just trying to verify if the controller was separated from the art, but I don't think so. I think the character was just over there for some reason. That's hilarious. And it transitions really nicely without the jump. That's pretty funny. Okay, so let's see the jump. That's pretty satisfying too. Cool. Yeah, I love the arms back Naruto run. I think this is the character that would do a Naruto run too. Very good. Okay, so then boink, boink, nice jump. So jumping and running is the most problematic, but that's how it's going to be for everybody. Is that the arms are so long for one that it's hard to track them as they do the transition. I think it's because the arms go back that they've got a little extra distance to go. You could try to anticipate that a little at the end of your landing. Or let's see, do you have a landing clip? You do have a landing clip. And what appears to be like a multiple transition or something going on here. So what this is, this triple arrow, usually indicates that there's more than one condition for transitioning. That's these right here. If you guys ever actually do that by accident, then you can remove them by hitting the minus button up here. But it's like dragging a transition several times like this. So now we should have a third one. See, 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to get rid of that last one because that should be the one I just added. So I don't know which one of these is the correct one. I'll have to look at it carefully. One of them has an exit time, one of them doesn't. That's probably the difference. But just be careful about dragging multiple transitions. So what I'm thinking though, let me stop the playback here, is if we look at the landed clip. So here in this clip we might have wanted to have, wow, that's weird. I don't know what's going on with the camera. We might have wanted to have this this front arm angled more backwards so it didn't have to transition as far, and then it would probably help. Kind of odd that my camera is doing that. A 2D camera is not really supposed to cut things off when you zoom, so I'm not actually sure what's going on. Weird. Anyway, let's go back out to play. Other than that one detail, and that's kind of an expected thing, I think this is pretty good. Really fun. And it seemed like the animator was set up well. Wee, wee. Yeah, so sometimes we're getting, like, if I rapidly jump, we're sometimes getting a stuck in the landing transition pose. That could be due to having those multiple transitions, or it could be due to it just not taking a short enough amount of time to transition. I'm not sure. But probably the one with the exit time is correct. The one without it, I don't think that one's going to be the one that you want, because grounded to true should have already happened. So I think that this one is the wrong one, and this is the correct one. Yeah, those are pretty long, those exit times and transition times. So we're seeing the landing, but it's probably taking too much time. Let me change that to 0.25, and then the transition to just like 0.2, just to tighten it up a little. Let's see now. Uh-oh. So now parts of his body are disappearing, so I don't know what that other transition was for, but apparently it was important. Okay, I'm going to stop messing around with this until I break something, but I'll just look at it in the condition that you first handed it in. Thank you, Elias. Very good. Let's look at Noah's. Okay. Animations, import materials. So a lot of this stuff doesn't need to be imported. We've got player prefab, which I'm worried about because that's mine. I don't want that one included. And I hope that if I exclude it, then this will still work. But it's marked as new, which means that it's changing my original, and I don't want my original to be changed. Here in the prefabs folder, though, we have it listed and it's not checked, which means it's the same. So I think we're safe. You may have just duplicated the player prefab once and then it's treating it as new, but we've got yours right here in prefab, so we should be okay. Test area dot unity. Oh, that's the scene. So we don't need the scene either, hopefully. Scripts. Okay, so I'm going to just import. Let's see if this works. Because I want it to go into this scene. Hopefully there's no scene changes necessary. Okay, he's floating and he's not playing. Oh, I'm worried that maybe I broke something by not using the other scene. Let's see if we can figure out real quick what's going on. So, character controller, rigid body, player anim. Okay, it just doesn't have its controller. So we should be able to find Noah's right here. And then, barring any other changes, it should work. Okay, there we go. So I'll take a look through and see if there was a different scene in which it was actually set up so that I don't deduct points necessarily for that. But if it's not set up, then that's something that you would need to fix and resubmit to get full points, because that's a critical part of making this function properly. Okay, so we've got our character moving around. He's kind of moving in slow motion. It doesn't really look like the animations were updated or fixed at all from last week. We've got a nice jump transition. Let's take a look at the animator. Okay, motion tree looks good. So for me, in order to make this character look like they're actually running, this is where I would come in here and change the playback speed. So let's just go all the way up to like 4 times for both of those. So his looping is not great, and that's probably because the animation wasn't changed since last week, but at least his feet are kind of going tippy-tap like they should at the correct speed. So then our jump tree, that works. And it looks like we don't have a landed or push off, so that's just it. Okay, so this works. There were some technical issues not working. Noah, if you have any questions or problems, be sure to send me a message and ask for some guidance on that. But other than that, for the most part, it seems to be functioning. And again, I'm going to check out whether or not in that scene it was set up. Actually, let's do that right now so I can verify. So if I just drag this back in, the stuff that I didn't include last time will be included. So oddly, it's trying to add this controller too, which I thought we had. Oh, we have this other controller. There's 2. So I may need to try both of them. Let's include this scene. So definitely not this though, but we'll include the scene test area, and I'll try the other animation controller. Crap, it's this scene. It's the exact same scene. I don't want to do that. That's actually something that could potentially break the rest of the examples. So instead of doing that, let's just try to change the controller to the other one, this one, and see if it functions any better or has different animations associated. Okay, so this one appears to have like no animations associated with it. So easy to bet that that one was just a mistake. And the other one that we already viewed was playing animation, so that's probably the successful one. So Noah, if this is stuff that you didn't intend to include, make sure that you clean that up in future. It can be a real hassle to have like undeleted extras and copies and misnamed things. That's not usually a very good production practice. It's going to make people angry and make it harder to collaborate with you. So make sure that you go through those folders and check that list when you export to make sure that only the necessary things are included, not just everything. All right, thank you. Let's check out Paul's. animations, sheet, prefab. All right. Take a look. Oh wait, he has prefab. So just a note, Paul, this is not a huge one, but you've named your folder slightly different, just didn't include the S, and so it missorted it. Just make sure that you name the folders exactly, and then it's always going to be as convenient and nice as possible. What are you doing down there, character? You don't belong down there. You belong up here. Slightly odd thing that the center of pivot is way off the character over here. I expect that when they start turning around, we might see some teleporting of the character. And I'm not sure how that happened because you weren't supposed to rebuild this part of the character, only this part down here. So I'm not sure how all of that got offset like that. I mean, here's the capsule collider. We could put it back in the middle, but then we'd have to move the player animation object over there as well. So instead, I'm going to leave it in the state that you've given it to me. But just know that if you placed your art on this player and it wasn't lined up, the solution was to move this object to the correct spot, not to move anything here in the components. Let's play it and see what happens. Whoa, you flew away. Okay. Yeah, I think you've messed around with the player object itself or tried to recreate that. And so there's a couple things happening right away that I can identify. One is that sort of teleporting is the left-right flip that I was expecting. The fact that he's on the ground is because the rigid body is not frozen in rotation, which is something that I included. So the character can't fall over. It also seems like the materials have changed and stuff like that. So here's what I can do. Let's do this real quick. I'm going to put my original prefab back in the scene. There she is. And I'm going to unpack it. And I'm going to unpack yours. And then I'm going to take this one from mine and delete it, and take this one from yours and stick it in there. So now my character function is all here. Your character art is here. And so I'm going to line up now your character with my collider. Make sure. Trying to center it. That's about right. Now the collider is a little bit too small, so I can change the size of that. It's probably here where things started to go wrong. The size in Y does this, but then it starts to dip down through the ground like that. So there's a different way. If you hit this little button, Edit Collider, it puts these small green dots on the capsule. Then if you just click and drag this top one, you can change the height without it going down into the ground. So that's all we really need to do. It doesn't need to be any wider. I'm going to click that button again. Let's try this and see if this functions any better. Okay. So we're still flipping quite a distance, probably due to how it was set up before. But now the character is at least not falling over. Okay, and your animations from last week are not working at all. And that was something I predicted and you didn't fix. So because you didn't fix them, they're still not working here. So you really have to go back and edit those things the way I suggested. Go watch the video that I put out. It's got a pretty extensive analysis and suggestion for how to improve that. But because of that, now you're going to lose points in this assignment too. You cannot just leave your old work unfixed. You have to fix it. If you don't, then problems pile up. One of the reasons that we're starting with 2D characters is because they're far easier to deal with and fix. But after spring break, we're going to start creating 3D rigs. And the process for making a 3D rig is step by step. And if you mess up an earlier step, you can't do the next step. You're just not able to. So you have to go back and fix the problems before you proceed. So you got to get used to that mindset, because you'll just get completely stuck in the class if you don't. So let's just make sure this is functioning correctly. It is. Let's make sure this is functioning correctly. It is, I think. Yes, it is. But it's the animations themselves that are playing back in a less than desirable way. Okay? And again, if you want that information, go back and look at the lecture in which I talked all about it. Thank you. Andrew. Oh, wait, I need to check if people are here. Okay, yeah. Just taking a look in case there's someone I could talk to. Andrew. So we got the controller, animations, and here it is. Andrew, make sure that you rename this, because if you don't, it can conflict with mine. I think that this name doesn't conflict, but I wanted your name on this, just so I could identify it most easily. Let's import it. That's the one. Just got to double check. Okay. He's, he's in the ground and I don't see his collider or anything. So, okay. I think what's going on is this is meant to be placed inside of May the way that I just demonstrated, but I wanted you to do that as a part of the assignment. So I'm going to take the player one more time. There we go. I'm going to unpack, bring up your object, and so that's why that name is that way. Delete this. I think I have to unpack yours as well, or it would be a good idea at least. Place it inside of player, and then this is the one that you would have named, right? Andrew's homework. I'm just going to name it really stupid. And then drag this in. That's what you would have turned in. Okay, so this object is just meant to live inside of this. Okay, let me adjust the position of the character because I just placed it in there. That's fine. We don't care about the head space. Let's go ahead and play and see how it plays back. Okay. So after I did that setup, it works properly, it looks like. But I need you to do that setup for full points in this assignment. All you got to do is do exactly what I just did and name it better than I did, and you're all set. But make sure that you're capable of doing that. A critical last step. There's a little bit of weird stuff going on with the falling animation, like he's flapping his arms. I think it's the way that you chose to animate that clip that we're seeing it repeat itself for too long. Oh, wait, what's going on? Oh, there we go. Just wanted to make sure that it was reporting. We've also got a new state out here that you can just delete. It looks like it doesn't have anything. You can just delete that. Okay, yeah, so we're moving correctly, but it's going to be the actual animation. So let's take a look real quick. Jump. This one would be upward. Okay, that's fine. Then midair. That's basically fine. The fact that he opens his arms could be causing the flapping. Then down. There we go. Down. It's going to be this one. This is the one. So you ended your midair state with open arms, but he starts the next action, falling, with closed arms. You want to copy paste that last pose to get into whatever new position you want. So it should be this one, I guess, or close to that at the beginning, and then transition to whatever else you want. But it's kind of backwards. So they're not really transitioning to and from each other very smoothly because they don't really correspond to each other. So we're getting kind of teleporting and flapping and rapid motion. Remember that the lowest common denominator for this jump is one pose each, traveling upward, hanging out in midair, and coming downward. And then if the thresholds are set right, it will smoothly play back regardless of anything else. Then if you want to exaggerate a little bit, all you do is put some wiggle on those animation positions. So for instance, midair, let's just say this is what you want for midair. So I'm just going to go back 1 frame, key everything right here, and then delete everything else. I'm just going to do literally that and put it on frame 1. I won't even give it duration for this example, but we could. If I wanted to give this wiggle, I just copy and paste that and then change things slightly so that it starts and ends in the same spot to kind of have a cycle. But we're just going to treat that like a pose. Then the jump up, I don't think there was an issue with this one. Not really, because he hangs out in this position, so it's probably going to be fine. But then let's do the fall. So this one is definitely problematic. Let's end it. Let's start it and end it in that position. I'm going to key that and then delete everything else, just like we just did. And then I'm going to move that to frame 1. So this has no duration, it's just a pose. But I think that this will make it play back better already. Let's try. So at least it's not flapping and teleporting. Now those poses don't have any, character to them because I just let them stay in that same position. But it's just kind of animating for us. It's animating a transition from each pose to the next pose based on velocity. And that's fine. That's one way to handle it. Usually that plus a little bit of character where they're moving their body parts is all that's really required. But I just want to make sure that you know that the lowest common denominator is this, where you just have an individual pose for each state, and we're letting the animator do all the work. So now here in the tree, the fact that we're switching between those based on this threshold is doing all the work. Okay? So hopefully that clears that up just a little bit. Thank you, Andrew. And finally, we've got Isaac. Okay. Good. Player prefab, Isaac. Okay. That one. There we go. Cool. That seems to work. Okay. And that seems to work too. Okay. Looks like maybe no landing clip because it's very abrupt, but let's take a look. Yeah, so we've got just the 2 motion trees, and so those are working. They're just a little bit plain. I would like to see you attempt something like the landing pose, just because it's a good learning opportunity to get a 3rd node in this chart, but I don't think I made it required. I think I made it an optional. But it is a nice thing to see. Your thresholds are interesting here, and also you did edit your playback a little bit, as I showed in the lecture, so that's nice. A little bit of extra speed at the beginning there. I do feel like the run ultimately is a little bit slow. I might do 2 for the full run and then 3 for the speed up, just so it looks like he's actually making enough progress. Now that's kind of cute. Maybe I went too far, and we should make it like 1.5 for the full speed and 2 for the speed up. There we go. That's probably a nice medium kind of jogging running speed. And then let's take a look at the jump tree. Thresholds look just fine there. It is still a bit sudden, I feel. That might be because 2 of them have up arms or 2 of them have down arms, but it looks kind of quick when he flips from one to the other. Just really quick, I want to see what the poses are. So we'll see jump up. Okay, that's down arms. Jump midair. These are down arms also. And then jump down. These are up arms. So yeah, it might just be the difference between how far his arms moved from mid to down that's making it really fast in its transition. So I guess you could solve that just by lifting these arms up a little higher. In fact, we could probably, without very much work, just do something like this so that the only thing that reverses is the elbows. And then if I lined it up nicely anyway, I'm not going to, I'm just going to lift it. And then let's just test and see if that makes a difference. There. So just a little bit more gradual because his arms were so low that they weren't getting enough time to transition from pose to pose. Okay. All right, man. Very good. Looks good to me. Thank you. Okay, and that was everybody's. How'd you guys like that assignment? You guys learn a lot about Unity in the Animator?
It was fun.
Yeah? Good. Well,
Over the whole thing, it was nice.
Well, I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. You guys did very well. And now you don't have to be too afraid of this sort of process if it's something that you're interested in. I recommend like platformer kind of mechanics as a way to play around with character animation just because it's a very simple kind of situation that you can easily understand. I personally love the Animator and think it's really fun to find nice and like satisfying transitions between state to state. But the first time I got my hands on this, I made a giant graph that was way out of control because I was being very, very picky about every little particular kind of animation transition. So I understand if you don't do that, but I also kind of understand if you do mess around with that and end up getting way out of control down here. All right, very good. So now we are moving on to 3D, and that's pretty much a permanent thing from now on. I don't think we're going to return back to 2D. So if you have any questions, thoughts about 2D animation, we never covered sprite animation, and we're not going to. So that can be an optional thing that I do at some point. Or if you look at the YouTube channel, what's the name of the class? It's 5A. We cover some sprite animation in there, so you can watch those videos if you like. Okay?
Sounds
Okay.
good.
So keep in mind, in our folder, in examples, we've got the rigs right in here, the 3 to be used. These are all the other rigs. This one's just the arm for Goon. And then up in here, these 3 are the primary 3 that you should use for the next assignment, and the one after that will be a walk. I had inadvertently made the homework due during spring break, so I fixed that so that it's not due during spring break, so you got the whole week to do that. This is actually a very easy assignment to get used to the 3D models. I kind of wish it would have lined up with the walk happening during spring break so you had extra time to work on it, but I guess not. I may publish a video during spring break, the lecture video, so that you have extra time to look at the information and think about it, but it's not officially due until the week we come back, and then the week after that is when we're working on the walk. Okay?
Okay.
You did already put up the video?
Put up the video for posing? I did, but not for walking yet. That'll be the one after.
Oh, okay.
All right, you guys. Any final thoughts, questions?
That was fun.
Cool. All right, you guys. Thank you very much, and I will talk to you
About the
on
video I posted on the main.
Friday. No, I saw the title, and I'm very suspicious. I don't believe
yeah,
it.
it only referring